Hello, and welcome to the Lady Stairs Knits podcast. I am your host, Sarah, and I am an avid knitter in Philadelphia. I'm so excited that you're here today with me for my 5th episode, and I have a lot of great stuff to show you. Let's start by talking about what I'm wearing. It is the Spring Sorrel by Wool and Pine, and I made it last summer. I used Knitting for Olive's Pure Silk, and I knit the size 3X, which I calculated based on my gauge that was the size to knit if I wanted to end up with a 41-inch bust in the final garment. I think I used 3mm needles, and I love this. I omitted any waist shaping. The neckline is kind of stretched out since I finished it because it's been getting a lot of wear, and I really like it. I think that it's great. It's got this yoke with this sort of dipped stitch motif, which was pretty fun to do, and then the rest of it is just reverse stockinette. I think under one of the armpits, I turned it inside out, and then I started just knitting in the round. It took quite a long time because I was knitting with quite a small needle size at quite a tight gauge, but I really like the end result, and it's gotten a lot of wear since I finished it last summer. It's quite warm in Philadelphia right now, so I have been enjoying wearing some of my slightly warmer weather knits, of which I have many, and I'm sure you'll see over the next couple of episodes. It's about 10 degrees Celsius here today, which is lovely. It's also my boyfriend's birthday today, so that's very exciting. We're going to celebrate later. His mom is coming in to the city to visit us and have dinner together, and I've gotten him some nice presents that he can open later, so it's quite an exciting day. So let's get talking about what I've been knitting for the past 2 weeks, starting with an FO. So here is my first FO and only, and it is a Muscleberry Hat. I wouldn't say infamous because my last podcast was viewed by 16 people. Well, at least at the point of recording this, it has been viewed by 16 people. But in my life, infamous. I had to rip it out and start over 3 times to get the sizing right. And I'm really excited that it is done. Although, as you will find out in a moment, the journey isn't over with this project. I'll give you a closer look at what it looks like. I used Neighborhood Fiber Co. fingering weight sock yarn, which is 100% merino in this bright neon orange, and I combined it with a Trellis mohair in the color Hakuna Matata, which is like a dirty yellow. And all of the brown flecks and some sort of purpley sections, all of that is coming from the mohair. And I love the combination. I think that it's really beautiful. It's not really long enough, though, as a hat. That's the problem. I have tons of the mohair left over, but I finished the orange. It was a 60-gram mini. So this is what the hat looks like. I mean, it fits. It looks nice. It's just a little bit short, and I'd like for it to be like 2 inches longer, 3 inches longer, so that I can turn up. So I think that I'm going to cut a line and just add some into the middle in a different color, and then Kitchener stitch the edges back together and just keep that on the inside. So journey is not quite over with this hat, but it still counts as a finished object. I bound it off, I wove in my ends, and I am sort of happy with the end result. Now I'm going to tell you about a half-finished object, which is the first Dear Bjorn sock for Pop. I have it here on a sock blocker, and it's finished. I knit this in West Yorkshire Spinners yarn in the color Blueberry Bonbon, and the self-striping yarn is called Vintage Tinsel, and it has some stellina in it. The Blueberry Bonbon is quite a close match for the blue that's in Vintage Tinsel, although it's not quite perfect. And you can really see how close the colors are in the section where those two colors are striped. So they're very close. It's funny how knitting for somebody even a little bit bigger than me always feels like it's taking exponentially longer. It just felt like this sock took so long. But I do really like it, and I'm really happy that it's done. I finished it the day before yesterday. The one thing I did to modify this pattern was I added this channel of rib on each side of the heel, because I have made this pattern before, and I found the leg to be so tight I could barely get it over my heel to put it on. And I knew that since this is for my dad, I think his heel to ankle ratio is much bigger than mine is. So I really didn't want him to not be able to get it on after I'd spent so much time working on it. So I thought that would be a good thing to add. The diagonal cable really negates a lot of the stretch that you would otherwise get from a knit fabric. So if I bring this up close and show you pulling off of the sock blocker, you can see how much of the stretch is coming from that rib channel. I'm not sure if you could see, but I hope you could see. So it makes a big difference, and these are great. Well, it's not part of the pair yet, but it came out really good. The rib channel worked really well. I did end up having enough of the Vintage Tinsel for this pair of socks, and I bought another ball of the Blueberry Bonbon because I knew I would run out, but that's fine. So yeah, my half-finished object. Hopefully I can send these over sometime soon. My dad is visiting the States I think in April, so maybe I can just give them to him in person then. That would be fine too. Yeah, I will kick off telling you about my works in progress by showing you the next one of the pair, which I have started. And here it is. So I put this safety pin on because the front of the top of the sock has more stitches than the bottom of the sock to account for the lack of stretch in the cables, and it's quite hard to remember which side is the top and which side is the bottom if you don't mark it in some way. So that's why that safety pin is there, to mark the top of the sock. Here's the back. Pretty much the same deal. I have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stripes in the heel and gusset. And then onto the leg. And it's going pretty well, although this one is also going slow. But I am enjoying working on these. If you can hear that rumbling noise, that's the subway that goes right under my apartment, and it makes the whole apartment rattle. But you get used to surprisingly fast. Next, I will tell you about my next work in progress, which is the Borough Cardigan, designed by Fabel Knitwear. So it's knit in pieces from the bottom up. Here's the body. I've modified it to be steeked. You can see my steek right there. Here it is. And yeah, the body is done. It's a cropped cardigan with quite big blousey sleeves. And I've added a few extra increases to make the sleeves even bigger. And I have done 1 and a bit sleeves. Here is the first sleeve I finished. I'll show you. I made it quite long because I wanted it to have a lot of give near the end of the arm, like this. One thing I wish I had done is added some short rows into the end of the back of the sleeve to account for the amount that gets eaten up by my elbow bending, but it's not the end of the world. Maybe I'll do that if I make another pattern with big sleeves. I love this fabric. I think that it's beautiful. It is Knitwear. I'm on their Patreon. I'm a big fan of them. I think that they really are, their colors are so beautiful. And even though I'm not really one for, I don't tend to gush over neutrals. I think that the way that they combine their colors with the natural grays and whites and browns of the sheep, it just is so stunning. This is the color Val, and I got it last year sometime. They come in plates, but I rolled it into this big ball, which I wouldn't really recommend doing. I think it's better to roll it into smaller balls because the weight of this ball is enough to sever the pencil roving. But the more you know, next time I won't do that. I'm holding it together to get this really sort of shimmery fabric with 2 strands of silk mohair, and this is the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, which is it's quite an unusual mohair in that I believe they have a certification confirming the quality of life of the animals that create the mohair and the insects that create the silk. So I think that that's really cool. It's a 60-40 mohair silk combination, which I am really partial to. I really love that combination. I think I like it better than like the 70-30 or the 80-20, and I'm really enjoying working with this. I bought these on a cone at the beginning of middle of 2020 when they were having supply issues with their balling factory. So I ended up with a lot of this stuff. I really like it. I wound it into cakes to make it easier to work off 2 strands of it. So yeah, this knits up really fast. I'm using a 4.5mm needle, and I'll show you how far I am with the last sleeve. And by last, I mean second, since I'm not a spider or a millipede. And I've got this far. So I've done both of the increases, and now it's sort of just plain knitting. It's not great travel knitting because the Knitwear is really delicate, so I tend to pull a lot of it off of the ball, kind of push it together with the mohair, and then knit with that sort of big clump in front of me on the table. My cat likes to play with it, so I have to work kind of hard to keep out of harm's way if he is in the area. My last, and maybe most exciting, depending on who you are, work in progress is my Scout shawl. So I will show it to you, starting from the first section to So here's the beginning. The edge is sort of curl, but I'm hoping that that will sort itself out in blocking. And on it goes. Here's the second section. Try to get it all in frame. And here is continues. Here's the big middle section. Oops. Here's the section I've just started. Still a little bit scrunched up on the needle, but otherwise, I've made a really good start on this. So, I have put a lot of time into this project during the past few weeks. When I started picking it up again, I was about halfway through this big middle section, which is the middle of the shawl. I made it exactly halfway through the shawl, and so I have knit the second half of this chart and this, which is about 35 rows-ish of the next section. Soon I'll start the decreases on this side, and yeah. It's kind of hard to think of things to say about it because I feel like it sort of speaks for itself. I think it's so beautiful, and I'm in love with the colors that are in it. The off-white is, where did it go? Is Almond by Holst Super Soft. The blues, all of the blues, are from the blue shade bag of Holst Super Soft. So I'm not totally sure which colors they are. I'm sure that I could track it down, and once I finish the shawl, I'll probably go on their website, try and figure out which colors are which. The orange is called, I think it's called Brown Red, but it's by Bichet Bouche, and it is the Le Petit Lamb's wool, and the brown is Jameson and Smith, or maybe it's Jameson's of Shetland. It's called Pete, and I really love all of these together. I think it's great. I'm not worrying too much about the colors, and I think because of that, they're turning out well. I love this section here. I also really like this section. There's nothing not to like about this other than that it's taking a really long time. It takes me between 8 and 10 minutes to knit each row. The purl rows take much longer than the knit rows, and it also depends on the chart. This chart, for example, was really hard to look at, print it out, and I had to cut the chart into just one repeat, mark where each repeat was with stitch markers, and scribble out quite hard every row after I did it, or I found it to be kind of mesmerizing and really hard to keep track of where I was. But these two charts are pretty easy to keep track of where I am. I have about 170 rows left to go. And so far I've done roughly 330. And I think it's beautiful. The pattern is the Scout Shawl by Florence Spurling, and she, I believe, was inspired by antique quilts when she came up with the pattern. I think that in the pattern it's all very well thought out. You have your 5 colors, and She's very clear on which colors to use in which sections. I kind of threw all of that to the wind and just trusted that it would be fine, and it has been. She also came out with a new design recently, and I think it's really gorgeous, but I can't start a new design by her until I finish this one, which I've been working on now for 3 seasons. But I am making really good progress. If I work really hard on it, I can knit about 10 to 15 rows a day. So hopefully by the time I next record, I have done more. I doubt I'll be out of this section, but hopefully I'll be quite close to the next chart. So I'm looking forward to showing you this project as it progresses, and I hope to wear it in at least the late spring of this year. I've also done just a small amount of spinning. I chain plied the second type of fiber from the fiber sampler kit, which is American Rambouillet. It looks like this. I think it's a little bit more even than the first one. This blue is just the leading yarn. It's a bit ropey. I definitely feel like I could do a better job, but I really enjoyed doing this. So maybe I'll spin another couple sections before the next time, or figure out what to turn these into. Spend that much time on spinning this week, but the time that I did spend, I really enjoyed. I also made one swatch this week to prepare for an upcoming project, which was this. This is a swatch for the Oniero Cardigan, which came out in the most recent Pom Pom Quarterly magazine. And I have grand plans to make this. The swatch took me, I think I had to unravel it 2 times, so this is my 3rd attempt at a swatch. I decided to knit the swatch in a different mohair to the mohairs I would be using for the cardigan, because I really don't want to run out. And it's 3 strands held together, so this takes quite a surprisingly large amount of mohair. I used this Ysolda mohair, which is a beautiful color, which I have left over from another project that I made, so I'm not too worried about using that up if I need to. And I think that the cable motif looks nice, the brioche looks great, and I really like the fabric. So this is, I really want to cast this on. I'm like itching to do it, but it uses the same needle size as my blue Borough cardigan, and I really don't want to have 2 cardigans that have mohair in them that are on the same needle size on the go at the same time, so I'm not going to cast this on proper until I finish the Borough cardigan. So I have a lot of incentive to finish that project anyway, but this is even more incentive. But I'm still really excited about this, and a few of my acquisitions this fortnight were related to this project, which I will show you now. So I purchased yarn one time since my last update, and it was from Woolen Company, which I have only ever shopped at online, but I know that they have a huge in-person store as well. But they have a great online selection. I really love shopping from them, and this is what I got. 3 skeins of mohair, all hedgehog fiber. The percentages are 70-30, and the colors are gorgeous. I was worried I wouldn't have enough in the fade that I already had to make a good fade through the yellows. I had a lot of orange and some yellow, but I didn't think it was enough to really make a nice steady fade. So I decided to pad that section out a little bit. This one is called Highlighter. Each of these are 50 grams with 420 meters of mohair silk. Here's egg yolk, which is like just an amazing color. I love this. And then this is pollen, which I'm not sure if it actually works in my fade. I'll post a picture of it all, which I posted on Instagram. I'll put that here so that you can see all of the colors together. It's too many to hold up all at once. But I think that I will end up using it too. And I'm really excited. I think that it's gonna be great. I'm so excited for this cardigan. The Woolen Company were running an email promotion as well. So if you spent $100 on hedgehog fiber yarn, they sent you a free sock mini. And I was at like 96 or something. So I bought a sock mini to get a free sock mini. I don't really have any regrets, but it is sort of a silly thing to do. So I bought this. It's called Cedar. I think it's a really nice color. And then I got this one for free, which is called Potluck, because I think that all of the mystery ones are called Potluck. I had looked for a bright orange to complete my Muscleberry hat with, but they didn't have any of those. So I decided to go with this. I love the patterns by Stone Knits, and so I thought that having a sock mini in like a kind of semi-solid color might end up being useful to make one of her patterns. So that is all of my yarn acquisitions for the past 2 weeks. I also bought the Pom Pom Quarterly, mostly because I really want to make the Oniero Cardigan. But there's also some sock patterns in there that I'm excited about. One of them, I don't remember the name, but I'll put it on the screen, is a sort of basic sock with some color work incorporated and a short row heel that uses, it's either reverse stockinette or garter, and it has some pearl bumps on the outside of the heel, which is really good looking. So I might make that as well. And I think that that's about all I have to show you in this update. I hope that you enjoyed watching this, and if you have any thoughts, I'd love for you to leave them in the comments below. Welcome to any new viewers or subscribers. I hope you'll stick around and subscribe, and I will be back to update you in about 2 weeks. If you want to hear from me in the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is szA.knit, and thank you for watching.